Well, this was interesting. This was in a little town on Lake Como called Verena, and we were leaving on the ferry to go to one of the other towns, and I looked back and noticed that the sun was coming over the mountains in the background and just peeking through. Using a fairly small f-stop, large number, small hole, you can create these lens sparkles, and that's exactly what happened here. And a little bit of lens flare that kind of points down into the water, and the town, of course, is just very colorful as well. Mm-hmm. But the yes, using a large number f-stop will create that kind of an effect.
Or probably about a 16 here.
Yeah, probably 16 or 18.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now we have this sailboat here, and it's sunrise, but it almost feels like sunset. How did you frame this shot?
Well, I got up very early again for this shot, and the thing that caught my eye on this, of course, was the boat. I wanted that to be the main subject in the image, and I loved the beautifully colored houses in the background. This is Portofino, Italy, mm-hmm. again on the Italian Riviera. So again, a foreground and a background shot, getting up very early and waiting for that sun to come up. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was just breaking on the horizon, as you can see in the photo.
And still muted, but it feels very warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have another sunrise shot. This one, closer to home in Maryland.
Yeah, this is I was going fishing with my good friend who lives on the Chesapeake Bay, and while I was waiting for him to get the boat ready to go out, some of the fishing boats were going out in the morning, and you can see here. But we were very lucky to have a beautiful sunrise. The sky was this unbelievable orange color with the sun coming up, and what really caught my eye in this was the way the bottom of the sun kind of melted down into the water. Mm-hmm. That people might think, that's an effect that you did in the computer, but it was really like that. It was just incredible. So again, getting up early in the morning or late at night, mm-hmm. catching those sunrise, sunset shots mm-hmm. is really important from a photographer standpoint.
And again, this probably wouldn't have happened without a tripod or without waiting and getting there and waiting for that shot.
Yeah, this was definitely on a tripod, and I believe I used a 7300 millimeter lens on this to get a little closer to the boats.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. And we have another water shot at Rehoboth Beach. You're starting to, in a few of these, introduce small silhouettes of people. And this is a very iconic shot that you have here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Rehoboth Beach. It's pretty close to where we are and easy to get to from the D.C. area. And again, you can probably tell this is an early morning shot with the sun has probably just come up over to the right off the picture. But I wanted to get the person walking in this shot, and the sky, of course, was just gorgeous that morning. A little bit of the water, and there, if you can see it, there's a boat kind of smack dab in the middle in the background there. And of course, the icon of Dolly's in Rehoboth Beach, the neon lights all the way over to the left, which so many people relate to.
Mm-hmm. And now we move to Russia, where you have this beautiful church here.
Yes,
this is early in the morning?
This was very early in the morning. Of course, St. Petersburg, Russia, in the summertime is so far north that you have to get up at 4 a.m. in order to get out before sunrise. It comes up about 5 o'clock. The thing you'll notice in this picture is the beautiful steel blue color of the sky. And that only happens for a very short period of time in the morning or at night, either one. And I was fortunate to be able to catch that just right at the right time at about 4:15 in the morning, just before the sky got very light. It's really interesting to take artificial light and natural light at this time of day and mix them together. Like you can see on the church, there's a number of lights on in the church, and they just have a very mystical look about them. But 3 hours later, this shot would look completely different, and there'd be 1,000 people walking around in front of
Right.
it. So
It's all about timing, and if you want to get a shot where there's very few people, you have to put yourself there at the right time.
exactly.
Yeah, and then we have this nice mirrored image here with the water reflecting the buildings and the yachts.
Yes, this is Stockholm, Sweden, and I did this one last year, and we had just gotten in the day before, and I woke up really early, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I looked out from the window of the hotel and saw this beautiful sky, and I said, oh, I got to get up and get out. So of course I got up, and by about 3:30 in the morning I was out walking around the streets of Stockholm. I was the only one on the street, maybe a few early morning people, but nobody else. This sky lasted all of about 10 minutes, and it was gone. So it was definitely worth getting up for.
It's beautiful. We have a larger silhouette here in the next one, and a very different look on Venice.
Well, we've for those who have been to Venice and the many tourists that go there every year snapping pictures, there are thousands and thousands of pictures of the Grand Canal. I wanted to try to capture something a little different here and not make Venice so much the subject as a person who lives there, who is doing what he's doing, and that is fishing. And the person fishing, of course, as a silhouette, I think just really adds to it.
Yeah, it does. And then now we can see the people in the next one heading home for the evening. A very peaceful image.
Yeah, my wife and I were sitting at an outdoor cafe in Colmar, France, and we happened to notice these two elderly ladies who were heading, I assume, to their apartment for the evening, and they were holding on to one another and both using canes, and it was just a very touching scene. So I grabbed my camera, which was right in the chair next to me, and was able to snap off just 2 or 3 pictures before they vanished into the alleyway.
And that stresses the importance of always having your camera with you, being ready for the moment, being prepared.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you wouldn't have gotten this image otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, timing is everything in photography, and of course some shots you have the luxury of time and you can set things up like in a still life or a studio shot. But when you're out taking pictures of people on the street, you better be ready.
Yeah, you can't plan it.
No, you can't plan it.
And here we have some more silhouettes, these 3 people on the beach. It's framed very nicely with the waves, and the way that the little girl is running away from them is very nice. How did you come about this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting shot, also at Rehoboth Beach, and I was out again early in the morning, and the sun had probably just come up, but the sun was to their back, so it made them very dark, and rather than trying to lighten them, I darkened them to make silhouettes from them. And I thought it was the shape of their bodies and their positions that really made this shot kind of touching and interesting as well. Especially the little girl who caught my eye running away from the waves was just a beautiful scene.
And now this is the first real close-up photo we have of a person and transitioning into black and white, the street musician. Why did you choose to make this one black and white?
Well, this was in Stockholm, Sweden, and I was at a cafe with some friends of mine, and this band just started playing right outside of the cafe. They were absolutely wonderful. Why I went to black and white on this is because in the background you can kind of see some signs from the buildings behind us there, and they were very distracting to the musician. He was my main subject. And in addition, what I did is I went in after the fact in post-processing and blurred out that background a little bit more to make it even less noticeable.
Right. Yeah, that's very nice that you did that. It does really put the focus on him. And then we have another shot here, another close-up of these two in a cafe. How did you take this picture? What was going on?
Well, this was interesting. I was sitting at the table next to these two young people who sat down, and I had a small Micro Four Thirds camera with me at the time, not my big Canon rig. And I didn't want to draw too much attention to myself, so I held my camera out in front of me and snapped it, not even looking through the viewfinder. And fortunately, it turned out. I wanted it to be a really candid street shot. And the funny thing is, in a few minutes, they were gone. So again, timing and being ready to take a picture at a second's notice is really important.
Okay. And so the last two images were very, all about timing. And this next one of the windmill, still black and white, we get a very still image here.
This is a static image. Again, I was looking for a foreground background shot. The thing I liked about this was the bridge coming in on the left-hand side. Kind of gives you a nice leading line to bring you into the picture. It just walks you in, and then you end up at the windmill. This is Kinderdijk, by the way, in the Netherlands, where there's about 17 historic windmills. The interesting thing about this shot is if you look carefully on the lower blade of the windmill, there was a little girl who was actually climbing up on it. Now, these blades don't turn. They're locked in place for they're historical windmills. They're not actually functional. And people do live in there. This is probably the little girl's home.
Mm-hmm. That's a very nice detail there. That as your eye leads you through the image, you pick up the little details like that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a very, very peaceful image of the Franciscan monastery inside the church there with the light coming through the windows.
Yes, this was on a hike on the Amalfi Coast, and at the top of this very high up hill we were on was this very small rustic Franciscan monastery, and just poked my head in the door. The thing that caught my eye about this was the way that the light was coming through on the right-hand side. It was probably 11 o'clock in the morning, so there was a bright sun, but yet the shadows that sun produced on the ceiling, on the floors, and throughout the monastery was, I thought, the most beautiful moment, and it really worked very well as a black and white picture.
Move on. We have the olive oil in the bottles.
Mm-hmm. This was in Venice, Italy, and having lunch at a small restaurant on the northern side, away from the tourists. I went inside and happened to notice these bottles sitting in the window just as the light was coming through the window. It gave a beautiful orange tone to them, which was just fabulous.
For more information about Mike Whalen's photographs, please contact him using the information on your screen. Travel photography is such a wonderful topic. Thank you for sharing your work with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
Join us next time, Behind the Lens.